Hey guys, I'm Andrew Luke and welcome to High Score. Shadow of the Colossus is one of those titles that I've wanted to play for a very long time. The only issue was that I never owned a PS2. Now that a remake has been released for PS4, I had to get my hands on it as soon as I could. Although I haven't played Ico or The Last Guardian, I will say, Shadow of the Colossus is one of the most beautiful games I've played in a long time. Let me explain why. Shadow of the Colossus was released in 2005 for the PlayStation 2, developed by Team Ico. The director behind the development is Fumito Ueda, known for also creating other games in this series like Ico and The Last Guardian. If there's one thing that can describe Ueda as a game director, is that he's a perfectionist. During the game's development, there was one incident where over 500 artists applied to join the team. Ueda said only one or two of them actually met his criteria. On top of that, he wanted to create a game that changed the perspective of how gamers look at bosses, creating unique behavioral patterns and designs for each one of the Colossi. All of these ambitious ideas from Ueda are in the game's presentation. Shadow of the Colossus follows the story of a lone villager named Wonder, who goes off to the Forbidden Lands. He rides off to these lands because he wants to revive Mono, a woman he cares deeply for. While he's in the temple, he meets an unknown entity named Dorman, who claims that they can revive her if Wonder uses his special sword to slay the Colossi in this land. The story is vague enough that it allows the player to come up with their own interpretations and ideas while playing through the game. The game was pretty successful, selling over 140,000 copies in Japan in just the first week alone. It received critical acclaim from numerous sources, with its soundtrack considered to be one of the strongest and defining factors for this game. So what is it about the music that creates such a massive response from gamers? Well, let's take a look at the composer behind it. The composer for Shadow of the Colossus is Ko Otani. Otani is a Japanese composer with loads of experience under his belt. He's worked on the scores for many anime and movies, most notably the Heisei Gamera trilogy. Seeing as he's already composed for films about giant beasts, doing that for a video game should be right up his alley. Anyway, not much is known about his personal life, but after graduating from university, he helped found a music production company called Imagine. The company has featured many top-rated composers in Japan, most specifically for its cinematic orchestration and scoring. And a lot of that cinematic quality definitely shows up in the music for Shadow of the Colossus. There's a recent interview with Otani who goes into a little bit of detail with his thoughts on the soundtrack. One comment that stood out to me is when he said the soundtrack here doesn't resemble a lot of traditional video game music.
大事な人を救ったとしても、その救いきれないなんか切ない感じっていうんですかね。例えば戦いの終わりという曲にしても、普通だと勝ったからやったっていう方に行くものを、この作品は全体的にレクイエムというか祈りというか、そういうものを基調にして作りました。
Funny enough, prayers and requiems are actually an unintentional theme for this episode, as we segue into the next section. Also, fair warning, we're jumping into spoiler territory here. The first thing to note about the music is it's generally reserved for the battles with the Colossi or other cutscenes in the story. Yet, when it comes to all the different tracks in the games, there's a lot of music behind it. But I ultimately want to focus on two themes. The first of the two is quite literally a prayer. Now, this is where things get complicated. The music has remained mostly unchanged in the remake, with reorchestrations that add more instruments into the mix. But this theme is the sole exception. The main melody in the beginning is completely different in the PS4 version. Now, there's no official PS4 soundtrack release yet, so for now, you'll see how the music is utilized in this cutscene. So after those melodies, the last section, which are these measures right here, are exactly the same. But you can hear the different kind of melodies from both of these pieces. The original version starts with this haunting, melancholy melody before changing keys. At least that's when it's played together, but in the PS2 version, it's not. This theme was broken up into two parts. The first section we hear is in the middle of the game as Wander does a symbolic prayer to Mono. This second section plays in the end credits where Mono carries the baby Wander and walks up to the secret garden. I'll go into more details about the contents later, but first, let me throw out a few things. First, the melody of the PS4 version is a lot shorter and condensed. Unlike the PS2 version, the melody also comes back later in the end credits. Another musical pointer is this transition between B-flat major and A minor. It uses a type of chord that's seen all the time in classical music, the 5 of 5. This is what the theory nerds call a secondary dominant. In this case, we take the 5, the dominant of B-flat major, which is F. And then we take the 5 of F major, this being the second dominant note, which ends up being C. A secondary dominant is one of the most common ways that a key changes, and it specifically would change into whatever that secondary dominant is. If you tuned out, it means B-flat major goes to C major. And boom! It kinda does. It uses C here, but then it goes to the A minor to resolve, which is the relative minor. So it still works musically. Let's listen to it so we can hear this play out. You can hear how the music transforms, and it fits the content of the story. But I'll get into that shortly. One last thing before I forget, the very last chord. It ends on an inverted A minor chord with an E at the bottom. But what's weird is all these flats here. It doesn't really match with the rest of the music. I had a hard time analyzing this, but in function, the E to the E flat at the very top acts as a tritone. Tritones are known in old classical theory as the devil's chord, as it takes the perfect fifth interval, something strong and stable, and it destabilizes it. Having this stable, perfect fifth at the bottom with a tritone at the top, it creates this contrast of uncertainty. Okay, I've rambled on too long about this piece. Let's move on to the next one. As the title suggests, it happens after you kill a Colossus. This one acts more as a requiem than a prayer. It's a fairly simple piece that goes from D minor and then jumps to G major. It definitely is unique as a victory theme, isn't it? It's not some happy-go-lucky theme like when you reach the flagpole in Super Mario Bros. I don't want to dive too much into the non-musical elements until the next section, but it does come back to one of Otani's quotes. It sounds like you saved someone you love, but you couldn't save everyone you loved. It's very bittersweet. One thing that especially brings it out is, oh hey, another tritone! The last half is really just the tonic chord, G major, extended out to great lengths. Each time it gets a little more upsetting and darker as the B at the top goes down to the B flat. As I said, it highlights the unsettling tritone, making something uncertain and uncomfortable. Okay, I think that's enough for depressing musical notes. We ate our nutritional fruits and veggies, now let's dive into the meat of this food platter. So for the impact, I take what we know about the composer and the music and put it together with the game to see why it all matters. Going a bit backwards this time, let me explain why the end of the battle is important. In Shadow of the Colossus, there's a constant struggle with morality between the player and the game. While we know what we must do, it's unsettling killing all of these Colossi, each with their own behavior patterns and mannerisms, some of them even just being passive in nature. This recurring theme is important for the questionability of the character's actions, especially in the final example. After defeating all of the Colossi, Wander becomes completely possessed by the newly revived Dorman. Dorman's full form eventually turns into an almost Colossus beast itself. And when the priest drops the sword and seals Dorman away for good, guess what plays? It's the same theme. This is the first time in the game where the player is put into the Colossi's perspective. It allows the player to question the uncertainty of Wander's actions, while at the same time, feel the tragedy of Wander getting so close to his goal, only for it to be stripped away from him. It plays into the theme of moral ambiguity. And now for prayer, we have two versions we're juggling with here. Is one version better than the other? Of course there is. Now, you can enjoy whichever version you want, but I'm gonna make the case here. After comparing the two versions and how they're used in the game, I actually think the PS4 version is superior. Don't get me wrong, I don't think the other theme is bad at all. In fact, I really enjoy the haunting melody that it uses. But let's look at the context once again. The prayer theme is used when Wander prays over Mono, and when Mono picks up the reincarnated Wander. While we don't know what the relationship is between Wander and Mono, we know this is about their connection. It starts with Wander looking after Mono, and it ends with Mono looking after Wander. While the PS2 version has a strong and unique melody, the PS4 version allows the melody to be brought back without splitting it up. On top of that, the PS4 version starts in A minor, while the original starts in either E minor or G major. It matters musically because, guess what? Both themes end the same way, in A minor. Wouldn't it make musical sense for it to start and end in the same key? Musically, this allows the story of the prayer theme and what it symbolizes to have a stronger presence. Even comparing the melodies, the new one is simpler form, a lot calmer, like, you know, a prayer. While both themes are strong on their own, I think the PS4 version carries more weight with the context of the game. It delivers what the story is all about, a wandering hero who sets out to achieve one goal, no matter what it takes. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. You may have noticed that Colossus broke my piano in the thumbnail, so now I have to go get it fixed. And the only way this piano can be fixed is if you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. There's a lot of music that I didn't cover for this episode, so I want you to tell me about your favorite pieces from Shadow of the Colossus. If you got any game requests for me to cover, you should let me know too. I'd love to hear your guys' suggestions. But that's gonna be it for this episode. I'll see you all in the next one.